tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Harut, and I got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
Brother, doing well. How about yourself, King?
Hey, man, no complaints, man. Got a couple of my little technical issues solved, so I can't complain too much, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing pretty good over here.
Hey, brother. Sounds good to me, King.
Indeed.
Looks like we back in. We'll be back in effect, folks. Man, we back on the trail again. He's right and exact.
Indeed. It still got some little technical things going on, but we working through it though. Indeed. But before we get too far into this episode, I want to make sure that to remind you to make sure you subscribe and like this video and hit that notification bell so you can know when we're live and in action and everything like that. And as always, this episode was brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Calipusha Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all or whatnot. There we go. Big up to y'all or whatnot. We if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can follow us at COSMICCONVO. That's Cosmic Convo on Instagram, and you can get to Push It Forward from there at PUSHITFWD. There you can get to the website and get to all the other podcasts under the Push It Forward Podcast Network or whatnot. And you can also get the Ninth Floor Films and everything like that. So make sure you go check out all those channels. Brother Ra, how can the people get a hold of you?
Same old same. You can hit me up at Facebook or IG via Shekam Ra, or you can hit me up at calipurusha@gmail.com.
Indeed. So yeah, we in interesting territory right here. Like I said before, you can go back and check out some of our older videos, our older episodes and different things like that. And we've pointed to us being in a situation like this, or the world, better yet, being in a situation like this. And the United States definitely has a role to play in that or whatnot. And we're definitely going to continue on that trail right now, because we'll be remiss not to or whatnot, because of the indications, the implications of everything that's going on and stuff like that. So you read the title, you watch the news, you see what's going on. We're going to dig deeper into this Russia situation or whatnot. Actually, let me do this. Ra, you had anything you wanted to say before we jump into today's topic, full body?
Yeah, definitely. So classes are coming up at the end of March. Actually, March 21st will be the first class that will begin for this next semester. It's level 1 of the neophyte level. Definitely, if you're interested, and I know we got some people that have already chimed in, got their payments in. Much appreciated. Much love to y'all. You don't want to miss out, because he's come around once a year. You want to be able to kind of ride it out throughout the rest of the year. So 28 to 30 week course. It's basically a college level type of situation where you're going to be getting all the nuts and the bolts from A to Z, 1 to 10 as far as this knowledge is concerned. And of course, there's different levels. So you want to start now. So in 4 years from now, you can graduate, have your nice certificate, put it in a plaque, right? And then count yourself as educated as far as the science is concerned. So definitely hit me up via email at calipurushastrology@gmail.com. If you're interested, I will send you a syllabus, right, which breaks down all of the course content so that you can review and see if there's things that you might have already either learned, if you haven't learned. And trust me, I'm going to tell you this much. What I teach and how I teach it is the fundamentals. Whereas you're going to learn the astronomy. We take at least 3 to 4 weeks with an astronomy class, and go through and kind of break things down as far as the nuts and bolts so that you know how things move, why things move, and where things move. And then, of course, from there, we go on deeper and get into the signs, planets, and houses. So that's just level one, level two, level three, level four. In other words, the initiate level, the adept level, and the Jyotishi level are all there to kind of refine and and tune your knowledge so that by the end of the courses, within a few years, right, you're quite adept as far as knowing how to work and even can even start your own astrological practice. So definitely hit me up if you're interested, folks.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, definitely get them classes and whatnot, man. Sure. You'd be dangerous out here. Indeed, indeed. So as I was indicating earlier, we're about to jump into it. We're gonna dig deeper into this Russia-Ukraine situation by analyzing the chart of the main perpetrator, Mr. Vladimir Putin. Or what. Now we've been hinting around it, talked about it. Those in Patreon, I touched on this subject from a Baza point of view, maybe few months ago or whatnot. So if you want to check that out, go sign up for Patreon. You can get to that link down in the description here or whatnot. And yeah, this is interesting. Some interesting things going on, and it's right in the line with our brother's chart. So let's dig in.
Yeah, so world leaders are interesting individuals to break down. The psychology, the mentality, the undergirding kind of psychological structure of how they're built is interesting because we get to see their life on display, right? We get to see all of their moves, their mistakes, their victories, right, firsthand because what they do affects the world, affects the nations, and so forth. So this is a case study. It's an ongoing case study, and case studies are how you fine tune your knowledge. You know, it's really how you tighten the ropes as far as being able to know what you're talking about. So that when you actually look at a real live chart, of course, these are live charts, but when you look at an average person, you can see the inner workings and the underpinnings of how things go. Um, you know, it's interesting because when we have access to knowledge like this, think about in ancient times how our ancestors and those that were of an older kind of sensibility with regards to rulership, they would use this data in order to understand who would be on the throne,
Right.
right? And I don't have a dog in this race, right? Neither one of us do. These are not African powers per se, but they are world powers, and so you still have to pay attention because we are in a global economy. We're in a global mindset, right? Um, if you're really wise, right, you kind of listen and see how the winds are going to blow and make your decisions from there. Especially if you're participating in stocks, if you're participating in any type of Bitcoin, right? Those types of things, right? You want to be keying in on these types of things because this is what shapes financial institutions. This is what shapes inflation. Obviously, gas prices are going up, right? Um,
Absolutely.
you know, I went to the pump today and it's a quarter more, right? And if we continue this way, it's going to be even higher, right?
We're gonna be
You
looking
know,
at them European prices. Man,
right.
Canada. I went to Canada about a year or so ago, and they priced their gas by the liter, and it was
Mhm.
like, oh man, how much was that gas? It was like $3.99 a liter.
Yeah, it's crazy,
It
right?
was so we ain't even seen. We've been fortunate in our gas prices. We ain't seen
Oh
it
yeah.
hardcore yet.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've even heard in LA they're looking $5 a gallon in some parts of LA, right?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, it hit like that one time here. I remember back in, I think it was oh
Mm-hmm.
05.
Hmm.
Gas had shot up to about 450. in
I
Atlanta.
remember that. Right, it
Yeah,
kind of hit everywhere. So yeah, everything that we deal with is we're living in a global world now. Nothing is isolated. And I hear some young people and some people say, why pay attention to the news, and I'm not tuned into that stuff. You should always keep your eyes to the sky and ears to the street, because that's how things navigate as far as the consciousness of this planet, right? The
right,
consciousness of this planet is on a pulse. You have to take a pulse check, right? Because everything that you do is going to affect something else in some way, form, or fashion, especially people that are considered world leaders. So, this is a case study. This is an ongoing case study. And this, what we're studying here, is the ancient form of psychology, right? It's just what it is, right? It's psychology at its best. And remember, psychology is only 50 years old at best, right?
right,
Most of the terms that you all use are Freudian, right, concepts, right? Most people don't even know that most of the terms you use are from Freud, right? And of course, if you know Freud studied, right, ancient Kemet, right? He studied ancient Egypt. So just understand, right, that, and of course, he is um, Jewish, right? And Jews, right, have a way of understanding things. In fact, when we talk about the id, the super ego, and those types of things, those just the structures of the spirit, just labeled in a different way, right? Um, but
well,
that's a
if
whole nother topic. But
we did cover Freud in what's the name of the episode? The
Mhm.
astrology of mental illness. I think that's
Right,
what.
we
Yeah,
we touched on them. We sure did, right?
or whatnot. Yeah. This
Right.
episode here.
Yeah, Awani's saying it's 5:59, right? Right, as of today, right? Like I said, it's almost, that's almost $6, right?
Yeah, shout out. I
Um,
mean, send my blessings to you people out there in California, man. They gouging everything, man. Prices is crazy out there for everything in California.
yeah, it's wild. It's wild. So, these things are gonna be far reaching, right?
Yeah,
So when you see something happening in one part of the world, every other part of the world is gonna mean, Russia has 10% of the world's gas and oil supply. You know, that's a big chunk. It's a
yeah,
big chunk, right? So don't take it for granted, right? What you're seeing now on the world stage is going to have even further ramifications, not just today, but for the years to come. So just tune in, learn, study, prepare yourself, right? That's why we study the stars and study the heavens, so that we can kind of know what's coming down the pipe before other people are even aware of what's happening. So, we're going to talk about some of those things today in regards to Mr. Putin here, and get into some things that are making him tick, right?
he's definitely ticking
And
for
he is
sure.
ticking, right? Might be even a little ticked off, right? Right, right. Um,
Dude.
so, looking at, Russia's chart just for a quick second, we can see that, Mother Russia, right? Cancer ascendant, perfect alignment for it. Um, you know, Saturn is in the seventh house for them, right? So, it's about securing things in a sense of the geopolitical, or the foreign relations type situation, right? Every country, every nation has foreign relations. The seventh house is really, when in my estimation, really the house that deals in relations, right? And it deals in those kind of deals that you make with other type of nations, or other type of powers that be, right? So when we say foreign relations, right? Of course, foreign is the 12th house, many of you know, but the seventh house is when we are actually making a deal, right? A
Right.
brokering of something. And this is what is taking place. It's just people are playing hardball, right?
Yeah.
And Saturn in the seventh house would make you play hardball, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it, Tef? It would, right? You play for
I've
keeps, right?
Yeah, I mean it's been like I mean it's been like that for like 10 years. These past 2 years is some change.
Right.
Rolling with Saturn in the seventh. So yeah,
Yeah. Ukraine. It's
It's
hardball.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's serious. Because serious what? Serious what? Business, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Seventh house is business, right? Saturn is serious. So Cancer, excuse me, Russia with that Cancer ascendant is gonna have. They're gonna be serious. It's gonna serious business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Saturn casts an aspect directly back to the ascendant, so they themselves have a firm grip on their nation state,
Yeah.
right? They have a you people in America and in the West, to some degree, we don't understand how things work in these types of circumstances and countries. They have what's called state TV, right? We have
We
ABC,
do.
NBC, CBS, right? I
They have
mean,
overt state TV. We have
oh,
state TV, but it's
it's
it's it's
undergirded, sure,
it's, it's covert.
right? It's
They don't
covert,
own up
right?
to it.
But they'll tell you, right? Look, this is state TV, right? Don't
Right.
expect to see anything but what the state wants you to know. That's just the way it works, right?
Right.
And so this just shows the chart and its accuracy with regards to Saturn being in that seventh house and having a firm control over the overall flow of the nation, the business that the nation does, and the foreign relation policies that is set up. This is a do or die situation for a country that feels to some degree outnumbered, outgunned, and outthreatened by Western powers. I mean, the USSR used to have a what's called a block of countries that protected its borders,
The
right?
Warsaw Pact.
The Warsaw Pact, exactly. Those countries are now their own entities, which of course the Ukraine was a part of. It's the largest country in the European kind of portion of the world, other than Russia. It's the size of Texas. This is huge. I mean, most countries in Europe are fairly small, my people, right? They're fairly small.
They're like
Right?
states. Think about,
Exactly.
yeah.
In fact, I mean, exactly like states, right? So, considering, right, the most powerful nation in that part of the world, it's playing chess. This is not something that it's just happenstance. It's a point at which if they don't do something to kind of secure their nation state and at least put barriers or buffers around themselves, then they leave themselves to some degree vulnerable. It's just it's just what it is, right?
Right.
Um, America is very different in that America's landmass, and America is the third largest country by landmass in the world. Most people don't know that, right? Most people think America's fairly small. It's very big. It's huge,
Mm-hmm.
huge, right? So, but it's covered on each side by what? Waters.
Water. Yeah.
Right? So you have to go across the water to get to either side of the nation. On the southern border, of course, we have Mexico. And I mean, I'm not saying anything about Mexico's powers and abilities, but I don't think they have nuclear capability that would cause a threat or be an issue. And Canada obviously is a very strong and staunch ally. So America is very secured in where it is as far as where it sits. But Russia is a very different circumstance, has a lot of different moving pieces and parts around it. So you have to consider why something like this would happen and when. Because at this point, if they don't do something now, that means they're going to lose out the Ukraine to one of the two, the EU or NATO,
Right.
right? And if that happens, right, and you got to consider, right, the Ukraine still is sitting on atomic weapons. They didn't come in and remove those atomic weapons when the Iron Curtain fell. They're still there. They just don't have the access codes. But if by
Right.
some chance or some reason they get information that NATO or the United States or a world power can afford them that information, they have automatic weapons, nuclear weapons pointed directly back at Russia. So it is a game of chess. It is a long game, not a short
Well, I
game.
think I think Russia's the only one that can give it to them. Because if that was the
That's
case, the U.S. would have probably
But
already.
the thing about it is the nuclear warheads they still have access to,
Right.
right? They can take those warheads off. That's, a matter of mechanics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And position those warheads with real live missiles, right? So
Right.
Either way, even if they can't get access to the data, they still have access to the materials. So it's a very serious play. And Russia knows if they don't do it now, they're never going to be able to do it. And that's a smart game. That's not a most people think that Putin's an idiot. He's not at all, folks. He's very intelligent about what he's doing, right? Very keen. In fact, let's just look at his chart for a quick second and see some of the things that he's got going on with how he reasons and calculates. Right? He's Libra ascendant, right? A lot of world power, a lot of world leaders are Libra ascendants, right? Believe it or not, Mahatma Gandhi, Adolf Hitler. In fact, they even call him the new Adolf, right? He's not like Adolf at all, but he has some definite serious um, mental connections as far as how things work. When I say mental connections, I'm really talking about the planet Mercury, right? Mercury is in the sign of Shitra, right? At 0 degrees, right? This is what is called, right, a very powerful position because it's was considered Virgatama. And Virgatama is when the planet itself is in the same sign in the Rasi or D1 and in the D9. This creates a very powerful planetary position. So his Mercury, which is the planet of strategy, right, of calculations, right, of reasoning, is a very strong planet for him. And in fact, it rules the ninth and the 12th house. So that means it is considered a very powerful planet for Libra ascendant, because not only is it a friend to the ascendant itself, the ascendant Lord, but also it rules a very powerful position as far as the overall chart is concerned. So this is how this man is thinking, strategically speaking. He's not an idiot at all, right? He's doing something very strategic. He's trying to position things so that the country itself that he's dealing with has been is being defanged.
Right.
Right. That's is what he's doing, folks. It's not he just necessarily wants to take over the Ukraine and necessarily annex it, which I'm sure he does have an idea of recreating some of those old kind of situations with Russia, but that will never come about again, right? And
Well, they
it
don't.
just
So the one thing that people don't have to think about is this: is that number one, Russia nor China has communist ambitions. Not really. Otherwise, they'll be running their countries that way. They don't run their countries like that anymore. Not completely. I mean, socially, they still have a clamp on the public, but as far as their economy, it's not really a socialist economy.
oh, yeah, communism fell with the Iron Curtain, right?
Right. So it's a different game that they're playing. They're not playing. They're not trying to.
It's not
It's not trying to be the USSR
no, it's not
in
the old
that way
communist
anymore.
economy. No, you can't do that. It's a global economy. You can't do that anymore, right?
Right.
You would be basically isolating yourself from all trade transactions and any ability to really make money. They have to make money. It's a money game, right?
Right.
But in reality, it's a dual-sided thing because they still have a very staunch control over the news, the information, the internet. Those things are very much still under the pressures of the rulership there. I mean, I want you to think about this for just a second, people. This man changed the laws to stay in power. It's not something, it's not a fool's move. It's an intelligent move to at least try to resurrect the greatness of Russia, because Russia, for all intents and purposes, I mean, it's not fallen, but it's not the great nation and what it once was. And he's trying to get that back, at least while he's in power, to be able to secure the borders of the nation. And it makes sense. Just like as if we had here in America, right? In fact, if you understand the Cuban Missile Crisis, it's the exact same thing, right? It's just in a
Right.
different package, right? They had our Cuban Missile Crisis in the 50s, right? In the 60s, where Russia was actually aligning Cuba with missiles, because Cuba was communist to a great degree, and so they were lining up those missiles, right, to be able to put them right in the backyard of America. America had a fit, right? They were going crazy trying to get people assassinated over there in Cuba, right? This is
Hmm.
why the relations are still soured with Cuba, right? So a historical kind of backdrop, just to understand that this is the same thing that's happening. It's no different, right? All countries and nations want to secure, especially superpowers, want to secure their borders to make sure that there's no backyard missiles lined at their capitals and their major cities. It's the name of the game. It's not personal. But
Right.
at the same
Well,
time,
the thing about him, and I don't know if you were about to go there, because you mentioned he changed the laws to be to stay in power, because he's made the calculation that most of the people that he knows are going to bend to the West.
exactly.
If it's not him, anyone else in there is going to compromise and bend to the West and not be, you know what I mean? They're going to be essentially the little brother of the United States forever, or whoever, or to China or whomever, or whatnot. So he doesn't trust anyone else
No,
to do the job.
no, he doesn't. And like, again, he's very intelligent, right? The man, you don't get to be FSB, former KGB, right, and be a dummy, right? He's very into. If you put him next to Biden, right, a landslide when it comes to as far as intelligence is concerned. He's that intelligent. The man is. I'm not gonna say any kind of genius or anything, but strategically speaking, very smart, right? So he's doing these things to put things in position. And if someone, I guess, SMP, you're asking if I think he's suffering health issues. You know, it could be possible that he's going through maybe some ailments to some degree, but I mean, let me explain this to you, right? This man takes his health, I'm sure, fairly seriously. I mean, he goes swimming, right, in the nude for all intents and purposes in ice cold waters to try to make sure that his chi stays at high level. I think what people have been seeing is that he's distancing himself to make sure that he doesn't get caught up with any type of COVID, right? Or he doesn't get caught up in any type of illness. As far as that's concerned, that may be a little bit more of what's being played out as far as his hand is concerned. But you got to understand, I mean, let me give you kind of a sidebar about Russia so that you know. Russia has done studies that have that go well beyond, and let me not say it. Russia and America are neck and neck, but Russia just kind of discloses things a little differently, right? Russia actually does studies on um, parapsychology, right? Um, in fact, if you ever go look at a tape called Nina Kalogina, right? Nina Kalogina, right, was a study that was done, if I'm correct, in Russia, right? And Nina Kalogina had the ability to, um, basically, she's telekinetic, right? She could bend objects with her mind, right? So, and I mean, this is old stuff compared to what they have now. So I'm sure the healthcare that he has access to is probably, if not better than America's healthcare, right? Just because they have access to different things and have studied different things. I mean, Russia is basically Russia is the America of the East, right? That's just how you have to look at it. It's basically they're on par with America, especially
Check
militarily, scientifically, right? Um, um, as far as space travel is concerned, I mean, they're no slouch. So I'm sure he has primary healthcare access to it, right?
check check this out.
I am wealthy in that the people of Russia have twice entrusted me with the leadership of a great nation such as Russia.
Fair
I
use.
believe that is my greatest wealth. Vladimir Putin sticks to a standard daily schedule, and that's what makes his daily routine extra special. Now, let's talk about how his typical day starts and ends and what makes it unique. So make sure you watch until the end of the video, and don't
Right.
forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing daily routines of the world's
You don't
greatest
see
leaders.
Biden do it, do you? Right.
So, as we discussed before, his day starts late in the morning, and he enjoys his lavish breakfast around noon. He usually takes an omelet, a bowl of porridge, or juice for breakfast, and washes it down with a cup of coffee. After he finishes his meal, it's time for him to exercise. He exercises regularly to stay in shape and stay healthy. According to Newsweek, he typically spends 2 hours per day swimming. While he is in the water, he gets much of Russia's thinking done, Judah wrote. After he is done with the 2-hour swim, he directly goes to the gym and does some weightlifting. Even though he is 65 and people his age are sitting at home, wasting their time, Vladimir Putin has been keen to cultivate an athletic, masculine image over the years. The next thing on his list is going to work, and he doesn't go to his office till later in the afternoon. The first thing he does is take note of everything he has to do. As we mentioned earlier, he is a night owl, so he works till late at night, and according to him, he works more effectively at night than he does during the day. In addition to this, Putin does not drink. He stays far away from alcohol. Now, one thing that we can say he has in common with other leaders around the world is that he is a risk taker, as he himself once said. One can truly enjoy his or her life only while experiencing it, and it is inevitably related to a certain level of risk. Vladimir Putin's daily routine is highly recommended for someone who wants to become disciplined.
Right.
Yeah, I would suspect he's probably in better health than Biden, right? Just to embellish on a little bit, like I said, he's not someone that is a slouch. He's not just sitting back. You know, he's taking his health very seriously, and I'm sure there's much more to it than that. He's a martial artist, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you know, he's not just an average guy. He's not just. I don't think there's been a president that we've had, right, that has been more fit than he is now.
Maybe
Right?
Barack.
Yeah, I don't think
Mhm.
Barack was, you know, maybe Barack was healthy, right? Let me say that, but I don't think he was flipping people over and doing jujitsu and, you know, that kind of thing. And plus, this man was
Basketball was his thing.
right, exactly. But this man is FSB, right?
Mhm.
That's KGB. That means he's a fighter. He's a trained fighter, right? He's a trained spy, right? So, right. Yeah, I don't think he's somebody that we just run up on and just deal, you know, you have a problem. So, health wise,
Right.
I wouldn't say so. And just looking at his transit, I mean, his dashas, he's in a Saturn dasha. Saturn is the best planet for Libra ascendant. It's Yoga Karaka. It is in the 12th house, which could lead to speculation of some health issues, but it is conjunct the 11th Lord, which definitely creates, and I mean, considering, I would say he's probably very healthy, right? Just for his age, right? Don't think any health issues are really at play here. But, you know, there's a lot of speculation and who knows the truth.
He's about to run into that Mercury Dasha.
Yeah, he's about to run into a Mercury Dasha at the end of this year. And Mercury is still a very powerful planet for Libra ascendant, right? Again, this is where he's now going to show off a lot of that intelligence, you know, par excellence. He's going to have access, provided he stays in office. He's going to have a lot more to say and a lot more to do, strategically speaking. So he's just putting things into position right now. Again, right, this is kind of the understanding of how this individual works. So Mercury is in the ascendant. So he identifies with his intelligence, right? He identifies with being smart, as we just saw, right? You saw the man, you know, has a very strict routine and regimen, right? He works late night hours. The 12th Lord in the ascendant definitely can show, right, a person that may have the tendency to work evening hours, right, or to be a night owl. Also, Sun in the 12th house can do that as well. So again, right, just showing that this is kind of the mechanics of how he's set up. But the real deal, right, that we're seeing right now is that, you know, if you look at Mars in the 3rd house, this is a person that loves to take, like you said, he takes risks,
Right.
right? Rahu in the 4th house, right? The 4th house is what brings you satiation, right? It's what brings you contentment. And Rahu is there, which is the planet of risk, right? So he's not afraid, right? Mars in the 3rd, and he likes taking risk, or he feels comfortable. Your comfort level with risk is quite okay. Rahu
Right.
being in the 4th. So now at this point when we're seeing this play out, and Saturn, right, he's in the last stages of his Saturn dasha. Saturn, when you're in what's called a dasha sandhi, at the end phase of the dasha, this is when major shifts are going to occur in life and in any type of situation that you're looking at as far as that that chart, that entity, or that nation, or what have you, that things it's going to change things. And remember, you're looking at a nation as one thing, but you're also looking at the leader as another, and you combine the two to see how things are going to play out. So by
Right.
far, right, Saturn Jupiter Dasha is going to change the game for the nation, like it's going to change it for himself, right? So go figure, right? And Jupiter is in the seventh house of what? Making deals, right? It's making deals. We won't get into the mechanics of Saturn and Jupiter's positioning and so forth, but just know in a Saturn Jupiter Dasha, which is the end of Saturn, right? And the beginning of Mercury, things are going to shift. He's going to put things into position and into play. Think about it like this: Jupiter in Aries means that he has knowledge of what? Warfare.
Right.
Jupiter is the knowledge piece. Mercury is the intellect, and they're in opposition. They're looking at one another. So that means that he has knowledge of warfare. He loves warfare. This is what he's been waiting on, right? This is kind of like now I get to show my stuff a little bit. So he's not rattling in his boots, but what is happening is that things are positioning themselves so that he's going to have to literally stand his ground because he doesn't want to lose face. That's one thing this man is not going to do. He's not going to lose face, people. I'm telling you, right? He's not going to just give in. And he has the military power and ability to hold it. Whereas the Ukraine, even though they're handling it right now, everyone's talking about what's going to happen in the next month or so. The way the Ukraine is going, it's got a nice crescendo, but at the point at which it drops, it's going to drop fast, right? Because no one can help. NATO can't help. The EU can't help. The US can't help. Right? They can send things and they can put. Now I'm gonna tell you this. I do know this, right? Those sanctions, right, are hurting, right? Not necessarily his pocket, because he's already braced himself, I'm sure, for this. But those sanctions are hitting him hard, right? And that's where you see the saber rattling with regards to let him know, look, hey, okay, look, I'm telling you, y'all keep pushing, right? I've got my people on ready, right? He's not gonna. He would never create a nuclear. I don't think he's smart enough not to do that. But he is playing a chess game to let you know. I mean business. That's just basically what he's saying when he talks
Right.
about the nuclear powers and making them ready and so forth. They stay ready. These people stay ready. They're never not ready. Just like the U.S., they stay ready. So it's just kind of a statement to say, hey, you keep pushing. If you drop anybody up in there, right, then I'm gonna let you know it's gonna get worse. But the long game here, right? Mars has entered into his fourth house. This is when we begin to see how things are going to unfold, right? Mars is entered into his fourth house. Now, that fourth house, right, is right the heart, right? It's the internal milieu, the internal atmosphere of an individual, right? The fourth house is literally an extension, right, or a process whereby we release things. It's called a moksha house. And moksha is liberation, but it's also a way of saying how we release, how we let go, how we surrender. And so Mars being there is not going to surrender very easily, right? Not with Rahu, the planet of ambition, the planet that wants to leapfrog, the planet that wants to encroach and push into other areas. Rahu is the encroaching army, and Ketu is the army that plants the flag. We've already conquered the territory. So he's definitely in the point of literally pushing the envelope to make sure that that nation called the Ukraine doesn't become allied to powers that can create issues with Russia. That is what he's trying to prevent.
Right.
And so Mars in
Right.
the fourth house, he's going to hunker down. You think he's going to give in? No. Right. I
Yeah.
know the yachts are being taken, right? The what do you call it? The ability for the oligarchs and the rich powers that be can't send their children to school. The actual trade and the Visa and MasterCard, all that shut down, right?
Well, I'm sure, right? Because this has been on the horizon. I'm pretty sure he's already set them down prior to this move and said, "Hey,
Look,
this is what's about to happen." So whatever, you know, we'll have this situation set up for you right here, and you know what I mean. That he because they've been, Russia has been trying to make themselves sanction proof for like the past, at least 5 years or so, maybe even longer. They've been they've known that. You understand what I'm saying? They've been trying to make themselves sanction proof or whatnot. So this is, I mean, preparing for it, and then once you get into it, then you're dealing with it in real time. So there may be some, what I mean, you're feeling that, but everything that's coming at him, he knew that was going to come.
oh
He
sure,
knows
sure.
he knows the limitations that the West are not, what boundaries the West is not going to cross.
Yeah, he knows that. That's why he said what he said.
Yeah.
He said, if you go and cross up in here, you'll get a repercussion the likes of which history hasn't seen, right? And you can read between the lines, right? So you see what I mean? He's quite aware. That's what I say. He's very intelligent, right? Very intelligent, right? I mean, considering even though there's an 18-degree gap, Mercury is still conjunct his ascendant and his ascendant Lord and his ascendant, which increases the level of intelligence. So he's not a dummy, right? He knows exactly how this play is going to play out. But in the end game, right, he's trying to push back on Western powers so that at some point, okay, look, let's make a concession here, right? Let's just kind of talk about a deal because Saturn, right, is in the seventh house of the chart of Russia, right? They're playing. It's a Saturn return, right? For all intents and purposes, right? It's a
Right.
Saturn return for Russia, right? And not only that, right? It's also a Saturn return for the Ukraine
Mm-hmm.
because their births are very close, right? They're very close in the process when the USSR fell. So, but the thing about it is that the moon is in the Ukraine's ascendant, and so this is what's called a sati sati, right? And for all intents and purposes, right? Um, that's a rough move, right? It's a rough time. Sati satis are 7 years where there's just challenges, right? You have to deal with a lot of loss, recapitulation of your resources, right? You have to reassess how you're going to be for the next 30 plus years, right? It's just a very challenging, trying time. Your identity is put under pressure, right? Your mindset is uncomfortable. The people, obviously, the people, which is the moon, right? And Saturn is also a planet of the masses. But in this regard, the moon is looked upon because Saturn is the ascendant lord. The moon is the planet of the masses for this chart. And so you can clearly see that the masses are actually under duress right now. Moon is at 29 degrees of Capricorn. If you look at where Saturn is right now, exact degree, right? It's right on top of, right? It's right on top. So you got to figure, right? I mean, what's the degree of Saturn right now? 24 degrees,
Yep. 24.
right? It's only going to get closer. Right, Saturn is going to move out of this particular sign into Aquarius as of April 28th. So prior to April 28th, the people of the Ukraine are going to feel an immense amount of pressure.
Well, they've been feeling it for years already
Oh,
because
sure,
they've
sure,
been in what you call it, sati sati or
sure they
whatnot.
have, sure they
Yeah.
have, absolutely. But it's about to get real, right? It's about to get
So
real, right?
right.
It's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter, right? So you got to consider, right, what's cracking here. This is what we look at with regards to In fact, on Wani, it's pretty much public knowledge. You can go on the Astro Data Bank. It's there for your perusal, right? But um, it's going to get very serious for the people of the Ukraine, right? Um, and as much as the Western powers are trying to supply them with the necessary supplies that they need, right? It's gonna get to a point where it's gonna get rough, right? It's gonna get rough, right? And this is not even considering that Mars is going to cross and is crossing their ascendant. So you can see Mars and their ascendant, they're at what? They're at war, right? They're at
Right.
war. See, Mars is in the seventh house of Russia. So again, it's geopolitics, it's foreign relations. It's making sure that those that are dealing with them or they're going to sit down and deal with them, they're going to have to cut a what? Cut a deal. That's what Mars does, right? It's a blade,
Right.
right? Something's going to have to deal's going to have to be cut. And when Saturn, and think about this, people, Saturn's going to move into Aquarius, right? It's going to stay into Aquarius until about June. Then it's going to move back over that same moon point, 29 degrees, go all the way back to 24 degrees, go back again, right? And it won't leave Capricorn until January of 2023. So this means that the Ukraine for the next year, well, what say 11 months,
Mm-hmm.
is going to have a lot of pressure put upon it. Now, I'm not saying this is going to last 11 months. I doubt that very seriously. I don't think the Ukraine can hold up that long, right? But I think that by the time Saturn enters into the second house of the Ukraine here in April, May, that's when we're going to see the breaking point. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right? That they're going to break, right? Okay, what can we do? How can we make this work? And it's Mars, right? Continuing because it's going to conjunct Saturn, right? In the ascendant for the Ukraine and in the seventh house for Russia. And this is all in the fourth house of what? Putin's chart, right?
Right. They
This
should have
is,
waited a couple of days before they started their nation. They should have
I mean,
waited
man,
they should have waited like a week because they like
serious business, right?
man, you said to set themselves up for failure.
Man, it's rough, right? Because what's going to happen is, see, what's happening in Putin's chart right now, he has what's called a Shasha Yoga. A Shasha Yoga is a Mahapurusha Yoga. So it's empowering him within the regards to his nation state. The fourth house is patriotism. Y'all feeling me? Right? Patriotism. And Rahu's there in the fourth house. Do you think he loves his country? He's fanatical about it.
Right.
He's a fanatic about his country. He loves his country. He thinks his country is the best country in the world, according to him, right?
Right.
And Saturn's there creating a Shasha Yoga, right? A Mahapurusha Yoga. So now he's feeling this. Remember, Rahu inflates things. So it's already inflated with Saturn being there. And then Mars is now entered here. So he's going to be even more inflated. And Mars being there, right, creates a Ruchaka Yoga. A Ruchaka Mahapurusha Yoga. So he's got two Mahapurusha Yogas with a Rahu there, which is inflating both of those at the same time. This man is not going to move a muscle. Right? He is not going to change the course one bit. And it's going to break the Ukraine, right? I'm not, like I said, I don't have a dog in this race. So either way, right? My people are still going. And here's the crazy part about this, my people. Black people are still catching HE double hockey sticks at the same time, right? They're getting pushed to the back of the bus, right?
In
While
the
the
Ukraine.
Ukrainians are getting treated bad themselves. So how are you going to treat other people bad when you're getting treated bad? I mean, the irony of it, right? It's crazy. But nonetheless, black people are in the Ukraine and they are being done wrong. So when I see this happening, I mean, the old saying, chickens home come home to roost. Well, I mean, you do people wrong, you get done wrong. You know what I mean? Maybe if you put the black people in position apart, maybe the universe might throw a little eye on you and say, hey, at least you're considerate enough to understand the plight of other people. But, no, they get treated unfairly in the midst of chaos. So, that's why I said I don't have a dog in this race, right? Because the people that look like us, me and you, and of course, I'm not saying that, you know, there may be other people watching this. I'm not by any means shooting anyone down or personally, but I'm just saying that it's crazy how you can have, even in wartime, people of color being oppressed in a nation that is under duress. Just odd things. But nonetheless, back to Putin, right? Putin's not going to give up. He's not going to relent. He's not going to change course. He's not going to stop. He's going to get worse.
Right.
And at some point, I believe at the end of April, beginning of May, when Saturn is pushing this point and pulling over, I think there's going to be a deal sit, a sit down and a real talk to say, okay, look, we give up, but what can we do to make sure that we at least get something out of this? Because I don't think they're going to annex the Ukraine back into Russia. I don't think that's what their whole agenda is. It's just to stop the growth of Western powers in regards to their neighbors.
Right.
Right. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. Crimea was a blink of an eye. That's done. Right. So, Crimea doesn't have the resources, or at least have the similar type of resources that the Ukraine has. But Ukraine is, I mean, if you look, right, they got the president hunkering down with his homies, right? With the
With
hoes,
the
right? Right.
like he Chief Keef or something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? With his house,
Right.
like he out of control, man.
Right. He's with the
The
homies,
mayor,
right? Yeah.
the mayor out there strapped up with the vest on. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, it's crazy, right?
I
It's
mean,
crazy.
it's honorable. It's honorable for sure. I
Oh, it
mean,
is. I mean, it's honorable, definitely.
you're not gonna see no U.S. president, getting down like
Oh
that.
no, no, he'd be waving the white flag, right? Or at least in a safe place where you wouldn't see him. But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, the people over there, they're fighting for, and Mars is in the ascendant. It's exalted in the ascendant for the Ukraine.
Hmm.
So for all intents and purposes, while Mars is there, right? Yeah, right. It's let's get down with the get down, right? But at the same time, Mars is going to leave the ascendant. It's going to cross that moon,
They'll
right?
put up enough fight to ward off the annexation.
Yes, right.
You know what I'm saying?
But they won't put up enough fight to stop the show,
Right.
right? And so my prediction is April, into April, it's going to be a while. We're not going to, March is not going to, this March is not going to, they're not going to give up in March. March is, they're going to keep fighting, right? They're going to keep, and they're going to put out more information about these type of bombings that happen in um, non-militaristic zones. That's where he may make a mistake. That's where I could see something happening where a war, because they sit on the war tribunal, right? But they don't recognize. I'm not saying that war tribunal. Um um not war crimes. Oh, I can't think of the name of it. They sit on a tribunal where they are against um the mistreatment, I think, of people as far as wars are concerned. Again, it's not war crimes, it's another way of saying it, but it's not coming to mind right off. But nonetheless, right, they're trying to put him in position to where they're looking at it from a criminalistic type of purview with these pedestrians and these types of just normal citizens, normal areas where people live being hit. That's where the West is playing their hand, right? That makes sense, right? Because the West wants to show this as a terroristic act. But I mean, I want you to think about this for a second. If the Russia really wanted to like lay it down, it wouldn't be much. It'd be over within a matter of weeks. It's just a staged process to let the West know that, hey, we're not playing here. We need to back down, and let Ukraine know that if you don't go ahead and demilitarize or defang yourself with regards to joining NATO or the EU, we will do it for you.
Right. Right. Right now, Ukraine, even back to that Mars thing, they're like they're like they're defiantly asking for it, and Europe is like, uh, we we're with you. Our prayers are with you.
Right?
Our money
We'll
is
wear
with.
your colors, right?
Yeah, we got a pin on. We'll talk tough on TV, but we ain't stepping a foot in Ukraine, okay? We ain't flying over. We ain't stepping a foot over there. All right.
They just
We
had a
love you. I
hey,
love you.
appreciate, right, but no, because they even had a debriefing on today, right, and they were talking to, I can't remember the individual in the United States governmental position or what have you, and they were asking, well, what about Americans that want to go over there and fight with the Ukrainians? And the dude said, look, that's not a good idea, right? Don't do that.
You're not gonna make it over there, okay? Unless you try to backpack through Europe, and they
Yeah,
will denounce you. The United
don't
States
go
will
over there.
denounce you. They are not coming to come save you.
No, don't go over there, right? It's not going to be a good day for you, right? So I mean, considering, right, it's a game of chess, and you're seeing a man that's using strategy, right? Mercury strategy, right, to his advantage. Um,
It's interesting about, Ukraine. I wouldn't be, I'm saying this way for a reason, but I wouldn't be surprised if prior to all of this, because there was once upon a time where Ukraine was like still like allies, close allies with Russia, like in not just in a practical way, but even in a just kind of a camaraderie type of way, even post Soviet Union. But
right,
I'm
but I remember that was depending on the leader.
right. So that's what I'm saying. So he just more calculations of what Putin is looking at. It's like, all right, the West is tampering.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
they're putting people over there. There's an
Yeah,
excellent book that you all should read, called "Confessions of an Economic Hitman"
yeah, that's a good book, definitely,
or
definitely.
whatnot. I grab it in a second, but "Confessions of an Economic Hitman." This guy's, former, CIA and stuff like that. How they go into these governments and infiltrate. You know what I mean? Put people in there, start revolutions. You know what I'm saying? Some of these activists that you see that the news is covering, they're not organic. They've been
Remember,
placed there.
remember Venezuela?
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing, right?
The Arab Spring
Right, right. Remember
with
that. Right. Yeah.
with Muammar Gaddafi, and when all that happened, Egypt and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's not as organic as you think. I just put
No,
it that way.
no. Nothing is as it seems, right?
Right.
And the real kind of kit and caboodle of this is when China hits the fan. And it's coming, people.
Oh
It's
yeah.
coming. I guarantee you this. This year, come May or June, and I really believe May, but let's talk a little bit of astrology just for a quick second and tie it together. Rahu is leaving Taurus, right? As of April 15th, 14th, 15th, right? Rahu will be entering into Aries. That's a whole different ball game, people. Whole different arena. K2 will enter into Libra, and Libra is the sign of what? Negotiations, right? Peacekeeping, deal making. K2 will cut the head off, right, of deal making processes and will inflate and inflame war-like processes.
Right. No one's gonna
Right.
want to compromise.
No one's going to want to compromise. It won't even be a part of the vocabulary. So it's wise for Putin to do it now. You don't think that he has astrologers? Oh, you best believe they have access to this knowledge and they use it. Right? And it's not Western. Sorry. Right? They use this type of knowledge to make these moves. Right? Exactly. S&P balance. Well, balance where K2 is there, K2 is headless. So there won't be any kind of balance. Right? It'd be all or what? Nothing.
Nothing.
Right? The scales will be what? Completely lopsided. Right?
Right.
And Rahu will inflate the arrogance, the feeling of territorialness, right? Remember, Aries, Mars is a territorial planet, which rules Aries. So it's going to be territorial. And China, oh, you best believe, China's just waiting, right?
Right.
They're just waiting because they know, well, if they do, they're seeing, see, what China is doing is seeing what America is going to do with this circumstance.
Right.
They're just waiting. They're
Right.
saying, let's see what America's going to do. Well, guess what? They ain't doing much.
Right. So I'm like, oh, by the way, this is the book.
Excellent book, folks. I had it at one point. It's a book that's been out for a while, right?
This is like the updated version. That's why it's called The New
Yeah.
Confessions of an Economic Hitman or whatnot.
Good
Definitely
book to read.
should check it out for sure.
Definitely a
whatnot.
good book to read. Good one to have in your library. I need to get it again. I had it at one point. But, China's waiting. And China is what? Capricorn what? Ascendant.
Ascendant.
So but their ascendant is Uttara, right? Ashada. And Uttara Ashada, it means the final victory. Not the victory in the beginning, but the victory in the end. So they're very much calculating exactly what's going to happen here. And they're just waiting until this kind of gets to a position where it has some leeway towards Russia's side, and they're going to push the envelope. And I'm really saying that when Rahu enters into Aries, right, this will be in the fourth house of China's chart. This will be in the fourth house for China. Fourth house is what? Homeland.
Right. Well, maybe we can cover this some other time. I was about to say, what do you think about the Sadisati that China's experiencing as well? How's that playing
They're
out?
under pressure, right?
Right.
But that pressure, right, is positioned to where their ascendant Lord is in the eighth house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that ascendant Lord in the eighth house simultaneously is going to crack an old egg, right? Gonna crack an omelet. And you gotta, they say in order to make an omelet, gotta crack a few eggs, right? They're
Right.
waiting. It's a waiting game, right? So that by the time the sun enters into Leo in the eighth house in China's chart, and this is August, September, right? When the sun enters and conjoins the seventh, in the seventh house conjuncts that debilitated Mars, right? Yeah, they'll be by that time in full swing of taking over Taiwan, or at least making attempts to.
Right.
So the Sati is a pressure cooker, right? It changes the thought process. It changes. Remember, Mars is in Cancer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when Mars is squeezing that moon, the pressure is being felt in the seventh house. Almost very similar circumstance to what Russia is dealing with. In fact, it's the very opposite,
Right.
but similar, right? So when Rahu enters into the fourth house of America, right? I mean, not America, of China, you're going to see they're going to want that land back, right? The nationalistic process that China has within the context of Taiwan is going to be a very different program. It won't be the same. This Rahu is going, for the next 18 months, Rahu is going to change the world scene. You won't even be thinking about COVID. Well, it'll come back. It'll pop its head up. It's not all the way over, folks. Right?
Right.
Just hold it down. Right?
I joke. I tell y'all. I tell people all the time. The mask is the new contraceptive.
Right. You see him laid all across the streets. Like, that's crazy, right?
Well, I mean, it's like it's the same mentality. Like, and the funny thing is that not the last time that Rahu and Ketu went through Sag and that whole thing, but the time before that was when HIV/AIDS jumped off, and then what did we come out with? We came out with condoms.
Right. Well, we had condoms was the biggest. Like, you got a glove? No love. Right. You ain't got no glove? No love. Right.
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 Mask. I think we're gonna leave with mask. Mask is gonna be just a part of normal life, like it is in China and Canada and places like that.
It'll be it's become a way of life. Yeah.
Right.
But and S&P asked, does Rahu act like Mars in Aries? No. When whatever sign it's in, it will take on the tendencies of that, yes. But Rahu is a planet that is all about crossing boundaries or barriers that weren't previously crossed, right? And so Rahu creates an inflammatory type disposition because inflation, right? Inflation, to inflate, to swell, right? To make bigger than what it seems, to make it expand, not in the sense of Jupiter as in growth, but expand like a balloon, right? And when you blow a balloon so much, it can only hold so much what? Air, and then it what? Pops. And then when it pops, all kind of things exactly come out like Pandora's box, as they say, right? So all kind of things are going to come out of this whole inflation of Rahu, of the Aryan type of disposition worldwide, right? So good question, S&P, but take the class, right? And you'll definitely take the course, and you'll definitely get some insight on a lot of those things as far as how these planets act in signs, because that's the first level we go through is planets and signs, right? So, and Rahu is a very special planet anyway. It's a node. It's not even really a planet. It's been granted the position of planet by Vishnu, right? Or, well, really Brahma, right? But that's a whole nother conversation. In fact, we may even be having a Rahu Ketu course coming up here in the end of April. So stay tuned for that. That's something that folks may want to chime in on. But, Rahu, when it enters into a sign, it just makes it whatever that sign, the things that it's been held back, it makes it brings out to the surface, right? It just brings everything out, right? So considering China's been waiting for the last 30 years, right? Plus, right? They've been planning for the last 30 years to get Taiwan back. And what better time to do it when we've already seen what you're going to do over there with old Putin, right? You didn't do nothing. Well, you ain't going to do nothing with Taiwan. Because if you do, guess what? Armageddon. Right? If you didn't see the special, go watch it, right? See, America's already positioned. Remember, just last year, right? America sold old, and check this out. They sold the old nuclear subs to Australia. They're old. Those are old people. They talking about how old, like 20 years, 15 to 20 years old subs to Australia. And it kind of ticked off France because France called all of their people back. All the ambassadors and all of the people there, they said, come home, right? Because France was trying to sell some of their regular power subs to Australia. And Australia said, no, we want the nuclear power ones. But there's a reason why. Because they're positioning themselves to make sure they have an ally in the southern, in that area of the world in the South China Sea. Remember, they just pulled Afghanistan. That's why everybody's clowning Putin and all of them and saying, why would you pull Afghanistan? Because Afghanistan is China's backyard. There's some pieces. Go ahead.
Hold up. I got you.
Oh, yes. Fair use, right?
Victor Gao is an expert in Chinese affairs and an unofficial mouthpiece for the regime in Beijing. vice president of the Center for China and Globalization think tank. He's a former diplomat who was the interpreter for communist leader Deng Xiaoping. If the US does intervene in Taiwan and Australia supports them, what will happen to Australia?
Listen, if Australia goes to fight together with the US soldiers in China's drive for reunification between China's mainland and China's Taiwan, then you are talking about the worst thing you can dream of. A war between China and the United States will soon escalate out of control, and that will be Armageddon, Armageddon, and Armageddon. And this is what I hope the Australian people will come to realize, that you need to deal with China with respect as much as you give to the United States.
Well, he said it 3 times.
He said, look. He said, oh, listen. you, the look on your face is telling me that you don't understand.
You don't want no parts.
Trust me.
No parts, people. Look, he said Armageddon, Armageddon, Armageddon.
Like,
You don't want none of this. Sit down and watch the show. Right? Get your popcorn, right? Because that, I'm telling you, this is what it's about. Even Trump even said it. Trump he said, look, you think Putin's got something. Wait till you see what China's got. Oh, there it's coming. It's coming. So this is just to project outwards to see, protect your families, right? Invest in things that can hold down the changing of the powers that be, because it's going to change. The global economic and global political structure is changing, folks. America is losing its power. Right? It's losing its power. It's slow, but it's now to have a conventional war, which America's never had a conventional war, right? Ever.
Except for it's at its inception.
Yeah, I mean that was
with
itself on a small front, right?
And with itself.
That's it. No one's ever invaded America. No one's ever dropped paratroopers down, right? But trust me, right?
Except for Hawaii, Pearl Harbor.
Right, Pearl Harbor, right? Mm-hmm. And that was you see what happened with Pearl Harbor, right? That's why the Japanese said, we'll just get you with the cars and the electronics, right? We are friends, right? We don't want no more Nagasaki's and Hiroshimas, right?
Right, but that's the reason why you're looking at what we're looking at today, though, right?
Today,
because now they're like, the other people that was watching was like, that'll never happen again.
They'll never do us like that. So get ready, right? And after that, think about it for just a second, right? That happened in 1942, right? 1942, I believe, right?
I think so.
Right?
I don't know why 44 jumped in my head.
47 jumps in there too in my head too, but I think it's 42, right? But think about it. After that, just take 50 years and fast forward 50 years. China is a world power. 1945. Okay. That's 55 years, and China's a world power. 55 years. Now go and just do a research. 1949 is when China declares its sovereignty, right? And that's when Taiwan and China split. 50. So just using that date, 50 years later, China is a world power. A world power. Now move 22 years forward, right? And not only is China a world power, it is now vying to be the world power. And this is the game that all of us are privy to see at this time and space on this planet, that these things are now shifting, right? And Taiwan is a symbol, right, for that particular, just like the Ukraine is a what? It's a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're seeing the powers over on the other side of the world positioning themselves for the game, right, of the century, right? Then now
Well,
this is what has happened. Go ahead.
well, there was another thing too. Ukraine, they have all those natural gas mains running through there that feeds
Oh
Europe.
yeah,
And
resources great. Yeah.
well, they was try well, not the resources still come from Russia, but they come through the
Mhm.
Ukraine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And the Ukraine was charging a heavy tariff on Russia for those
Mhm.
pipelines running through there.
Right.
So something with those deals is gonna have something to do with that as well.
Sure. Sure.
That
It's going to be
tariff
a
that
laid out. It's going to be laid
right.
out. Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be laid out. It's going to be a multi-layered process. So we're
Right.
saying, end of April, right? When Saturn moves into that position at the 29th degree, 30th degree, 29th degree into 0 degrees Aquarius, that's when we're going to see this deal being brokered, right? And like we're saying, right, Russia might have to concede some of those resources to rebuild the Ukraine, right? Because this damage is going to be done. This ain't over, folks. There's a lot more damage to come. Mars in the ascendant, and they both have a root chakra yoga, right? But of course, Russia is much better poised, right? And then of course, even Putin, all of them. In fact, think about it: all of them are cardinal signs. Isn't that interesting? All of them are cardinal signs. Putin
Yeah.
is cardinal, Russia's cardinal, and Ukraine is cardinal, and China is what? Cardinal.
Cardinal.
Cardinals are leadership positions. They take the lead, right? A lot of times they don't. They start well, but they don't what? Finish well,
Right.
right? But uh, um, Russia is poised to finish, right? They're not. They've been around quite a while, right? And if you even understand anything about Russian history, go back and look at in the early 1900s when the Bolshevik Revolution happened. Check that out, right? History is a deep thing because even back then, right? And Stalin and all those kind of people and Lenin and all those, those things were this has been set into place hundreds of years, 100 years ago, right? It's not just an overnight thing. Putin is a result of those older archaic type of processes. So that's what I mean by Russia is not going to just go away. This is something that is in their blood, right? It's in their kind of thought process. So check it out. But I would suggest really paying close attention to the news and staying plugged in and watch the transits, watch how the planets move, watch how Putin is going to get stronger and more hunkered down, more focused, more driven, right? Amped up, right? And you keep your yachts and your. He don't care about that. He wants to make sure that position that Ukraine has is defanged, right? Then a different conversation will ensue. And by that time, right, China is going to be rearing and sharpening, their blade to get ready to do their thing. And I would imagine that there's some uh
Putin,
what's the word?
you go first because
hmm
right?
You go first because if you don't, the
Hmm.
EU or NATO's gonna snatch them.
Right. So we're gonna see how this plays out. We know what
Right.
they're gonna do, but let's make the moves.
Yeah.
Right? And then after we have this, they're gonna be so strained dealing with what you got going on. Then we make our move.
Yep.
Right? And then they've known this time has been coming, but that time has come now. Right?
Yep.
And the West is gonna know this is where we're at, this is where we stand. Your days of playing Big Brother to all of us
Over.
are over.
Right. Yes, and that's what we're seeing, folks.
You're gonna do business with us. Look, like if we're gonna be partners, you're not gonna look at us as your little homies that you can just, you know what I'm saying? You're not gonna little homie us anymore, right? If we're gonna do deals, we're gonna do deals as equal, people, you know,
Yeah,
equal
you're not gonna sun
entities.
us anymore. You're not gonna sun us, right?
Yeah,
Nah, son. Ain't none of that no more. Right?
right,
It's equal playing field, fair exchange, no robbery. Right.
right.
That's what is on the table now. And you're gonna have major world powers poised on both sides, right, of the United States from either ocean, right? And now America's gonna have to literally do a different dance, right? So just stay tuned, folks. I'm pretty sure this is what is going to unfold in the next few months up to, like I said, within the beginning of the summer and through. So definitely.
Indeed. You know, here's the funny thing. You know, the lens that I'm using right now and the lenses that I have are actually vintage Russian Soviet lenses, cinema lenses that came from the Ukraine or whatnot. Those things, if I got them back in November or whatnot, and if those things, you can't get you can get those things right now or whatnot.
Don't
You
even
know,
think
like
about it. Yeah, that's
you
done.
can you
Yeah.
can get them right now. So
It's gonna be
I
a
was
while
thinking,
before you get that again. Yeah, definitely.
right, right. So that's gonna be interesting. Maybe the price double up, man. I might check it out, see if we want to sling a couple of these things, man.
Right. It's money for sure.
Indeed. No, I'm gonna keep them, man. There's some shout out to the Soviets for for making a good lens. Indeed. But you know, as always, this has been episode 7, episode 107 overall. We want to thank you all for tuning in, and make sure if you haven't, done it yet, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell or whatnot, because it's important. You know what I'm saying? That's how we keep these things rolling. We're trying to grow, take this thing to the next level, like we always tell y'all we're trying to do or whatnot. And, this episode is brought to you by Pushing Forward Media Group, Calipusha Astrology, and our good people over there on the Patreon. Big up to y'all. We got some things coming up, some interesting, shows coming up, some research that, I've been doing that we're going to parlay into a show and stuff like that. So you're going to see that or whatnot. So definitely be on the lookout for that and your messages and everything like that. Rod, you got anything you got to say to the people before we exit out?
No, just spread the word. Send this to your people, right? Get the knowledge out there so that people can be on the up and up just like you. And also definitely, again, hit me up. Classes are going to begin March 21st. So chime in, tune in if you're interested. Learn how to use this science. Learn how to be able to read the heavens so that you can become, for your family, your community, and the people around you, kind of the person that kind of drops the knowledge so that they can become aware of these things. So, get at me if you're interested.
Indeed. So with that being said, y'all be safe out there. Keep your eyes on the skies and on the prize. And we're out. Peace.
Peace.